Maritime Area Planning Act, Amendments 318 to 323. Minister, if you wish to move and speak to those, and then we'll just move on to the schedules and the title, and we will then have completed committee stage. So, Minister.
Thank you. I move amendments number 318 to 323. These amendments amend provisions of the Maritime Area Planning Act 2021. Amendment 319 amends Section 75 of the Maritime Area Planning Act 2021 to disapply the requirement in Section 75 to hold a MAC before applying for the development consent. This applies where a prospective applicant has entered into pre-application consultations with On Board Penala before the 1st of October 2022. The provision is intended to ensure that projects that enter the planning system under Section 37B of the Act prior to the commencement of Part 21 of the Planning and Development Act 2000, which introduced the requirement for a MAC, can continue in that consent process, notwithstanding the introduction of a new marine planning regime. It is a partner provision to the amendment at Section 243. However, an application for a MAC must be made within 2 years of the grant of planning consent. Similarly, Amendment 321 inserts a new Section 76A into the Maritime Area Planning Act of 2021, disapplying the provisions of Sections 75 and 76, where a lease is made or licence is granted before the 1st of October 2022, ensuring that there is no requirement for a MAC in such circumstances. Amendments 318 and 320 are technical amendments providing definition and requiring cross-reference. Amendment 323 is intended to address concerns which arose in the context of the Maritime Area Consents issued under the MAP Act to a first batch of offshore renewable energy projects, the Phase 1 projects in December 2022. The MAP Act provides at Section 144(1)(b) that if the holder of a MAC becomes a subject to a winding up order, or if a receiver or examiner is appointed, the MAC automatically terminates. In drafting of these Phase 1 MACs, it has become apparent that the wording of Section 144 as it stands has the unintended consequence of preventing the holder of a MAC from identifying a suitable replacement holder from taking control of the project in the event of a termination occurs as per Section 144 of the Act. The automatic termination provision is problematic for investors and financial institutions in the context of providing project finance and may pose a significant obstacle to financing the development of an ORE project. The issue that this amendment seeks to address is that currently, if an offshore wind farm gets into financial difficulty and becomes insolvent, the right to develop the project, the relevant authorisation, automatically terminates without those lending money to facilitate the development of the project having an opportunity to remedy or rescue the project. The proposed amendment provides for a short suspension of the automatic termination provisions, which would potentially facilitate the identification of a suitable replacement entity, thus allowing an ORE project to continue. Under the proposed approach, MAR will have the right to suspend the automatic termination provisions and require a default offshore wind farm developer to submit a proposal for assignment to a new holder. Under the existing assignment provisions, Section 85 of the MAP Act. It is envisaged that on foot of these amendments, DEC and MARA will produce guidance in relation to the factors that MARA will or will not consider in reviewing, approving, refusing an assignment request under new Section 144A4, 5 or 6. Amendment 322 is a minor technical amendment.
Minister. Deputy Gould, I think a briefing note on this would be very helpful to members.
Yeah, and I just have a couple of questions for the Minister. Minister, can you expand on the rationale for this, as it seems, and this is Section Amendment 319, it seems to give extraordinary latitude to allow them not to have to apply for a MAC until the second anniversary of the date of the granting of the permission concerned. And that's, I think, in paragraph C of this amendment. And it's hard to see how such a delay in getting clarity on the developer's capacity to deliver via a MAC is consistent with the drive to achieve our 2030 targets and not to waste resources of the state in the focus of an unviable development.
Is it okay, Deputy, if I respond to that
yes.
in a briefing note? Would that be of use?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Another question then, Minister, and listen, I have pages of them here, but in relation to amendments 320 and 321, these really should probably have been taken together as they concern exemptions in respect of cable infrastructure from normal requirements under the Act of 2021. What's the rationale for this? It's also it's confusing as the briefing note refers to the matter where applicants have engaged in pre-planning consultation on or before the 1st of October 2022 with on board Planola. However, the actual amendment refers to leases or licences granted on or before the 1st of October 2022. And I suppose the chair has referenced you're going to send a briefing note. There's another question, given this allows for a window on which to find a new operator, is it not clear where liability will arise for issues and damage which may arise during the interim? Can the department expand on who and how such issues will be managed? And that's in relation to section amendments 322 and 323. I certainly would appreciate a briefing note.
Yeah.
And I suppose for my final comment on this, Chair, and just this whole set of amendments, we've been discussing now the Foreshore Act 1933, the Planning and Development Act 2000, the Maritime Area Planning Act 2021, the Historic and Archaeological, under the Historic and Archaeological Heritage Bill. We've also discussed the government's amendments to the Corrib Act 1945. We've also discussed briefing notes for amendments on the Valuation Act 2001. We've also discussed Local Government Authority Act 2022. We've also discussed Local Government Rates and Other Matters Act 2019. And then we've got this section in relation to the Maritime Area Planning Act. Like this is no way to be doing. All of these are really important issues. I've cooperated, and Sinn Féin have cooperated with the chair and yourself today, Minister, because we know we're not opposing these. We know there's very important work that needs to be done, but we have huge concerns and questions that we would have liked to have addressed. And I just want to flag my disappointment the way we're doing things here today. But we're not going to be obstructive, and we're not going to attempt to hold it up. And that was my final comment on today's. And like we're here well over 3 hours now at this stage, and we're trying to be as constructive as we're also trying to get information from yourself and the department.
Thanks, Deputy Gould, and I think that briefing document will be very helpful. Deputy Gould has raised a number of questions. There are questions that weren't actually raised at the briefing that we did have. And I think if you could supply Deputy Gould and the rest of the committee with a more detailed briefing taking into account those questions, I think that would be very helpful, because we will have a report stage, we will have the Shannon stage, and a lot of those questions could be addressed.
And again, just to note the concerns raised by the Deputy, and certainly we will provide a detailed briefing if required on the specific questions that you put here today as well. And again, just to thank you and the committee and you, Chair, for the cooperation on this. You know, it is hugely important, but we do note and appreciate the concerns that you've raised in relation to this.
Okay, thanks. So now I just put on Amendment 318 and the name of the Minister, the new section be there inserted. Is that agreed? Amendment 319, the new section